I'm getting ready to go up into an attic and install loose fill insulation. I'm just doing a small project here. It's about a 400 square foot little studio apartment. I'm going to spread out the insulation by hand, and I'm just going to show you what the whole project looks like with insulating this small attic space. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of air sealing. Air sealing is one of the most important things you can do with your attic insulation project. It is mind-blowing how much heat and energy loss you get from air gaps. This is a new install of insulation. So the first thing I'm going to do is go up and seal any of those openings, and then we'll get into the project of what it looks like to spread this insulation out by hand. The first thing I did was I came up here with all the lights turned off and looked for any light that was shining through in order to know where to seal up those gaps. And I just want to show you the really basic tools I'll be using. Of course, we've got a tape measure, because I'll measure the thickness in order to just verify I've got the approximate R value that I'm going for up there. And then a box knife to cut open the packages of insulation, a light source. I've got a headlamp that I really like here. And then a respirator. In my opinion, a respirator is really important anytime you go up in an attic. And then especially if you're working with insulation, especially if it has fiberglass in it. The other thing is a rake. This is what we're going to be using to spread it out with and to fluff up the insulation. Insulation really is not effective if it's really packed down. We want it to be fluffed up really well, and the rake is going to be what we needed for that job. The other thing you see here is a sheet of plywood. I've got a piece of plywood that's small enough to fit up in the attic patch. I'm going to use it as a work surface. So we'll put the bags of insulation on top of it, cut them open, and that'll give us a nice spot to work from. A few good lessons learned are only plan on doing the raking technique to break up the insulation if you absolutely have to. There's really no substitute for a blower. I ended up doing about a half of a bag, spreading it with the rake before I decided it was worth it to go to the big box store and rent the blower for a half day. It was well worth it. There was still a lot of clumps no matter how hard I tried with the rake. So I would say plan on getting a blower unless if you're just doing a very small area, like a bag or less, then it might make sense to just do it by hand, but you're gonna have a better, more fluffed up, more efficient product without a lot of sweat and angst if you get the blower. Other than that, the first rake I used had really small tines on it and it didn't break the insulation up very well. So I went and got a bigger rake with bigger tines, and that did a much better job of distributing the insulation. So definitely use the best and biggest tined rake you have around if you have to do it this way. And then also the plywood I put underneath the insulation when I was breaking it up was priceless. You definitely gotta have a good smooth surface underneath it to work on. So if you find yourself in a position where you need to spread out a little bit of insulation with a rake, the rake is a good option if you just have a small amount of space to do. This being 400 square feet plus, a little bigger than I think would be good to do it that way. It would take, I think, a few hours, and it's not gonna be as good of a product.